The Democratic Party is the evilest organization in the history of the world. Since their inception in 1800, they've been the party of slavery. Then, after slavery, they became the party of the Confederacy. After that, they started killing black people during Jim Crow era. You're voting for a party that tells you they are going to abort children up to the 9th month, castrate little boys, and call them little girls, mutilate little girls and cut off their breasts and give them puberty blockers. And you don't think you're gonna be held responsible? As we look at the Democratic Party and the chaos that they've reigned on our community, our young men, our young women, I have to ask you to look at what they've done to us. Look at what they've done to us. Look at what they've done to us. The Democratic Party is a death machine.
All right, so a lot of that I do agree with, or it's facts. I don't have to agree or disagree. It's facts. The Democratic Party was a party of slavery, was a party of the KKK, was a party of Jim Crow, and is the party of homosexuality and transgenderism, and pretty much the party of blatant, outright confusion. They are the party that will stab you in the back, smile in your face, stab you in the. But that's really not what this video is about. As you could probably tell from the thumbnail, that this is about Martin Luther King and what Martin Luther King's contribution was to Black America. Though some of these points are true, there's a time and a place for everything. It's not time to bring these things out to the masses on or during Black History Month. That's not the time. For one, you're talking about someone that a lot of people venerate. It's like telling secrets on someone's grandmother. It's just not wise. You're never going to get anyone to actually convert over to what you believe, even though these things are true that we're going to go over. My thing is, there's a time and place for everything, and this is not the time or place to be talking about this. You really could have said all this stuff about the Democrats without even bringing up Martin Luther King.
They destroy. That's what they do. They destroy. They decided to try to infiltrate the Black community, and they didn't have any success until they met somebody. Who did they meet? Martin Luther King. And this is where we went wrong. He made sure that he brought the Black vote to the Democrat Party. They used the Black vote to commandeer the most powerful country in the world. He who the Son has freed is free indeed. Once you accept him, you are free. Anybody in the Democratic Party that tells you any different, he's a liar, he's an apostate, he's an affront to God, and he should be rejected by any Christian walking on this earth. And he's inviting you to go to hell with him. Don't go with it. Don't go.
Both parties is gonna get you to hell. Both parties is gonna get you to hell. Just because the Democrats have done all these public outlandish things doesn't mean that there's not things that the Republicans do in secret that isn't also jacked up to our community. Like, these brothers is just brainwashed. They think that they are American. He starts off the video with saying, what do they do to us? But in the beginning, it says Christians and Americans. I didn't see no white folks on this video. On this trailer, I didn't see no white folks. Maybe the gay ones, but as far as who he's talking about are so-called Black. But he's not gonna ever address the issue with who is running these parties. This is not about a particular organization. It's about the people that run these organizations. And for some reason, he thinks that the people on one side is better than the other. That's just foolish. It's foolish. And then you try to bring up the Bible as if the Bible tells you to vote Democrat or Republican. The Bible doesn't tell you to vote. The Bible tells you not to look for another nation that cannot save you. So what is he even talking about? Stop bringing up the Bible and politics. The Bible and politics have nothing to do with one another. The Bible is against politics. It's against big government. Why? Because the big government and the politics has its people in captivity. The so-called Blacks and the Hispanics are in captivity. But I'll digress. We're gonna keep going.
Vince, I've watched that trailer a dozen times, and each time you do that third look at what they've done to us, I get chills and tears well up in my eyes. and 'cause I get emotional. It does trigger me. Vince, I think, and having watched the documentary, the full thing this morning, I feel like the things you're arguing, everybody knows is true, but people are reluctant to admit a mistake, that they've been slaves to the Democrat Party, and it's been a mistake, but people don't like to admit mistakes. They just don't.
We have been enslaved to the Democratic Party. He is absolutely right. But the Republican Party is not any better. Now, we'll teach you about being your own man and, being successful and taking accountability and things like that. They are more of a man's man type of group. But that does not mean that you're going to thrive because you're a Republican. It's not about if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I haven't voted in years. It does not affect me. It does not affect my day-to-day. What affects me is my education. What affects me is the resources that I have. What affects me is the knowledge and guidance that I get about these resources. Because you can have the resource, you can have the internet, but how you make money off it. You can access certain things, but if you don't know how to put it together, then it's never going to become anything great. And that is the issue. That's what they're never going to give you, is the access to actually become as great as them. They're going to give you the philosophies and they're going to say good things to you, but they're not going to give you any type of, oh, this is how you trade stocks. This is the type of bonds you want to get. This is the type of life insurance you should get because this life insurance will allow you to take something now after a certain amount of years without no penalties. That's not going to happen. That's not going to be due to you being a part of a party or not, okay? So we really need to stop with this whole choose one side versus the other. That's a game. It's a game. It's a farce. It's a lie. It's a trick. And these niggas is falling for it, hook, line, and sinker.
And then part two is you're so bold with it and you're so just committed to truth that you went after the sacred cow, MLK. And that makes people reluctant because he's an idol that they worship and they don't want to let that go either. Their thoughts and affinity for MLK is too difficult, or they're struggling with that level of truth and boldness. But I think most people know what you're arguing is true. They don't want to admit it. And the going after the MLK, but I almost think it's necessary. In order for us to walk back from the 1964 Civil Rights Act, we're going to have to deal with the truth about what MLK's true legacy is and what he actually put into place. We have to deal with that.
Now, what I would say on this before I get into any details, I want the other brother to speak, but bringing up MLK is a low-hanging fruit. I don't understand why we can't bring up any of these presidents that put in actual policies that allowed for the so-called blacks to be in the conditions that we're in today. Why we can't bring up Bill Clinton? Why we can't bring up any of his policies with welfare and the 3 strikes rules? How come we can't bring these people up? The people that actually sign bills. Martin Luther King don't sign no damn bill. He don't sign no laws. He don't make no rules, no regulations. He doesn't. It took him to die for me to be able to sit at any restaurant, to be able to go to any hotel, to be able to not have to go through the back door into an establishment. So to me, it's low-hanging fruit. It's a self-hating argument, and it's disrespectful to our ancestors. Whether or not these things are true, I'm not saying they're not true, but to do this in this manner and to be presenting it to white folks, this is the only people that's going to even be listening, to me, means that you're a fool.
Painful, but we have to deal with that.
Yeah, Jason, it was difficult for me. Like you brought up in the household, you probably had a Martin Luther King picture hanging up in your living room in your house, just like me. You heard me say inside my documentary, I had an Aunt Jenny. She was older, much older than I was. She was almost in her 80s. And she lived in an old house with a wood heater and no running water. And she had 2 pictures in her house, and one was Martin Luther King Jr. And he's an icon in my house. And I kept trying to find a way around all the stuff I was hearing and all the stuff that I was reading and all the things that were happening. But as I said in my documentary, it was like what happened between Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. When C.S. Lewis was an atheist, and Tolkien finally told him that Jesus had to be a maniac, crazy, and insane. Oh, he was exactly what he said he was. And so I had to look at what was being said about King. I said, I read Ralph, his best friend's book. It was Ralph Abernathy. The walls came tumbling down and said that the night before he did the mountaintop speech, he slept with 2 women and beat up and beat up another one at the Lorraine Motel. So he beat her up, slept with 2 other women. I read the book by Parting the Water, American the King Years by, his name was Taylor Branch. He was a Yale graduate, Pulitzer Prize winner, Bill Clinton's roommate at Yale. I read Bearing the Cross by Garrow, who was a scholar of Martin Luther King Jr. His book won a Pulitzer Prize. I read the Jackie O book, where she said that Martin Luther King was a horrible, terrible person. Read the FBI files. I just got through reading Jonathan Eads' book on King that came out this year. And all of them say the same thing. And I have to say, is everybody lying on him?
None of this has anything to do with the Democratic Party. Me being a part of the Democratic Party had nothing to do with Dr. King's real life. Now, this is a channel about truth. So if you didn't know, Dr. King, or Martin Luther King, Martin is not his real name. He was not born Martin Luther. He was born Michael King, but his father changed both of their names after he was born to kind of represent, being Martin Luther, which was the patriarch that wrote a referendum about how Catholicism is all false. So Martin Luther King was brought up to kind of be molded to be something that he really wasn't. Okay. So, and I understand that, but there are things that we benefit from Martin Luther King. What you and your mama and her grandmother chooses to be as far as their political party, nothing to do with any secrets, any scandals that Martin Luther King had. This is just a smear campaign on a man that died for what he believed in. Now, though he has some scandals and he has some bones in his closet, do I think that he meant well? Yes. I do think that he meant well. I do think that he wanted to be something better than what he actually was, which is why he didn't have any of this stuff open to the public. Because he didn't want us to be like him. He wanted us to be better. Now, I personally think that he was tricked by the Democrats and even the Communist Party, because at the end of his life, he realized, I'm being played here. This is probably not going to be good for my people. I just went along because these white folks seem like they had good intentions. But white folks don't have good intentions for you. If they're not going to get any accolade, any recognition, any resources or doors open from you succeeding, they don't care. I just think that this is just unnecessary, a smear campaign during so-called Black History Month.
What they say he was. And they were saying, not me. I was 4 years old when he died. I never met him. I'm going by something that these Democrats wrote. And these weren't conservatives writing these books. Jason, these were Democrats, very liberal Democrats writing this stuff about King. And I'm saying, if everything they said about this man is true, 45 girlfriends, orgies, gay sex, drinking, drunk, outside children. I mean, this guy was more like Rasputin than Jesus Christ. And again, this is not me writing it. This is socialists and Democrats and We Shall Overcome writing this stuff. And so as I started reading it, and then, I was going to the Lorraine Motel to keep my studies up about King. And they were playing the I Have a Dream speech, and it was looping at the Rain Motel. And my wife said, come on, Vince, we got to go. I watched it 2 times because King really rocks his speech, right? And then I heard King say something in his speech I heard him say 1,000 times. The old Thomas Wolfe line, right? You hear a thing 1,000 times before you see it once. And I heard him say something that I said, this is the poison pill. I just read John Locke's book 2 weeks earlier, the Second Treatise of Government, where he was talking about freedom being an unalienable right, that it was irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. And so this is still fresh in my mind. And I heard Dr. King say in his I Have a Dream speech, because I was wondering why Kaepernick was kneeling and all these NFL players were kneeling, why everybody was mad, Black Lives Matter, blowing up stuff, fighting. And I heard King say this. He said, 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. And I said, that was it. That's the poison pill. Because like I said, that was a lie because I was born free. My freedom is a gift from God.
And he's saying that what Martin Luther King was stating, that we are not free in 1968 or 67 or whenever he had that speech, was not true. And then he gives you an example saying that I was born free is just delusion or trickery, because yeah, you was born free because Martin Luther King had to die for you to not have to have a green book to know what hotels you can stop in throughout the Bible Belt. He died so that you can actually go to a restaurant and not have to be told, get your nigga ass out. We don't sell no pies to niggas. He died so you can march in the street for whatever reason that you march. Not that I agree with it, but and not have dogs sicked on you, okay? He died so that we can actually go to the schools that might be in better neighborhood. Now, I don't agree with all the integration. And even Martin Luther King didn't agree with all he was doing, but there was some benefit, brother. And you not free. How are you free when you don't make no rules, regulations? If you need a driver's license, where are you gonna get it from? If you need an education, where are you gonna get it from? Can you just give your own degree to yourself? No. If you need food, water, clothing, shelter, if you want to go outside the country, who do you have to ask? Can you just walk out this mug? Can you just walk to Canada if you wanted to without a passport? Walk to Mexico if you wanted to? No. They got border patrol. If you don't got the proper paperwork, you will be detained. You are not free, brother. Stop it. If you free, how come you can't give any jobs to your own people? How come you can't change the street signs on where you live at? How come all this stuff is already in place and you can't do nothing to change it? Because you're not free, brother. Stop it. This foolishness. Brothers is talking about we free. That was the lie. Because I was born free. Yeah, you had more liberties than Martin Luther King did, but you still not free, brother. You can't even put on facial hair if you wanted to. You so in shackles in your mind. The chains are not on you physically. The chains are on you mentally. You think that you can't choose outside of Democrat or Republican. That's not being free. You still locked in to the system.
Like John Locke said, it's irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. It's an unalienable right. And Thomas Jefferson said that these unalienable rights, the unalienable right to freedom is the right that we use to tell King George, you are not sovereign over us. God is sovereign over us. Our rights come from God. They do not come from government. And King said we're coming to government to guarantee our unalienable rights. And that's a lie. These rights come from God. He said 5 times.
Brother, the Lord put you so-called blacks into captivity. He's the one that did it. What are you talking about? And even in religion, you ain't free, because you can't preach that that Christ is black and all the apostles is black. You ain't never gonna do that. You're gonna say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, or that doesn't pertain to my salvation, or no one knows, no one was there. You're gonna have all these excuses, but all the evidence is in the Bible. Even in religion, you are not free, brother. So this is just more pandering and fear mongering and a smear campaign to appeal to white folks that they better than me. But it's never gonna happen. But let's see what the Lord is saying. The book of Baruch, chapter 3 and verse 8. Behold, we are yet this day, and you not free, brother. You not free. You don't make no rules, regulations. You don't put no presidents up. You don't put no mayors up. You don't put no governors up. You don't have no representation. You get whatever they give you, brother. You don't make no rules, customs, values, regulations, nothing. You do whatever the system tell you to do. You ain't free. Where thou hast scattered us, the so-called blacks and Hispanics, we have been scattered all over the globe. Who did that? The Lord did that. Where thou hast scattered us for a reproach. They talk about us at every single chance they get. They call us all type of names and a curse. Why? Because we can't never get along. We can't never agree. We can't never succeed. And to be subject to payments. If you are still paying taxes in this country, you are not free. Period. I don't give a damn you got a business, you pay taxes. I don't give a damn if you say, oh, I make my own money, I got a good job, you pay taxes. You ain't free, brother. Try not to pay your taxes, see what happens. You're gonna lose property, lose your business, and your real freedom, because you're gonna now have shackles physically on you. according to all the iniquities of our fathers. We got here in these conditions because we disobeyed God, which departed from the Lord our God. We're not free, brother. You're not free. Stop saying that. So book of Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. Arise ye and depart. Depart from what? From this system, from this society. The Bible always spoke against the government. Always. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. You're not going to get successful and become rich and famous and live a good life because you're a part of the Republican Party. That ain't going to happen because it is polluted. It doesn't matter what side you're on. The people that's ruling it is a wicked people. It shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction. You're going to be destroyed. You're not going to be any better at the table of the Republicans. You're not going to be any better. Your mind is going to be just done. You're going to start saying things like, oh, I'm American. We have to value our ancestors, our forefathers of America. No, you don't got no forefathers of America. Your forefathers in America was slaves, getting whooped, beat, hanged by the people, not the institution, the people. Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 17. And I will set my face against you. The so-called blacks and Hispanics today, we are God's chosen people, and the Lord has set his face against us. And ye shall be slain before your enemies. How? Getting shot down in the street, thrown in the jails, put it into the child services system. We are slain physically and mentally before our enemies. Who's doing all these things to us? So-called white man. Before your enemies, they that hate you shall reign over you. Brother, you are not free. Period, point blank. Because I'm sure that the president that's in there right now, he didn't want that president in there. But did he have any power to change it? No. And ye shall flee when none pursueth you. So we always afraid of our life. Policemen pull you over. Oh man, you want to run, you want to hide, you gonna shiver. You got your all your stuff on the dashboard, your hands up here. You just hoping on nothing happen. Why? Because you're not free. There's a book of Psalms, chapter 83 and verse 1. Verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. We are the Lord's chosen people. And the other nations have taken crafty counsel against us. How you think we in the ghettos, in the slums? How you think we are part of the redlining? How you think we getting shot down in the street? How you think we don't have no representation at the United Nations? Because they have crafty counsel against us. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. That's why you steady calling yourself black with brown skin. My shirt is black. My skin is brown. I'm not black. You're not black. That's why I say so-called black. Because the white man is the one that told you can even call yourself that. We wasn't calling ourselves that when we first got here. It says, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. You don't remember who you are. You don't know who you are. You don't care who you are. And Whitlock know who the real Israelites are, but he's still calling himself a black man because he wants to be aligned with this system. He don't want to be out of line. He called that man the most important man that's going to be in 2024 and 2025 when he's met the greatest man that's been on his show. The greatest man that's going to be a part of this future is already been on his show. So Whitlock is a damn fool. This man here with his damn tie on is a damn fool. This man's a damn fool talking about we got to be a part of the Republican Party and it's all Martin Luther King's fault that we are part of the Democratic Party with the liberals. No, that has nothing to do with anything. This is just a smear campaign on our ancestor that gave his life. I won't say gave, but they took his life for him fighting for us. So I mean, this is all just foolishness. I don't know what the hell going on with Whitlock. I had some hope for him, but he seemed to keep coming back to his coonish ways. I thought that he was going to be better. I thought that the whole Colin Kaepernick skit he did was maybe just a one-off, and now he was all about his people. But no, man, he about the Americans, and that means that the so-called blacks get melted into that and then don't have their own identity. And we're going to, anyone that does have an identity, we're going to smear them for no reason during Black History Month. All right, hope y'all learned something on this. I'm not saying that what they are saying isn't true. It's just not necessary to have Martin Luther King in this conversation. the only way to get any type of traction was to throw a black man's name in there. If you start talking about the white liberals and Democrats, no one's going to care. But if I throw in a black name, because the so-called black man is the most powerful, or has the most powerful energy on the planet, now everyone would want to listen. And if I do it during Black History Month, I'm going to get some traction. And that's all this is about. All right, y'all. So we're a small channel trying to do big things. If it made you laugh or you agree, hit that like button. If it made you think, go ahead and hit that subscription button, and let's keep the conversation going with other topics. And I'm out. Peace.